Welcome students. Today we shall discuss about the tripartite struggle. Let's see why the three powerful dynasties have conflict among them and what were the consequences. The three dynasties of the early medieval period, the Gurjar Pratihars, Rashtrakutas, and Pals, fought with each other to acquire control over Kannauj. As I have told you, Kannauj was considered a hub of power on the fertile plains of the northern India. It was an important center and trade and agriculture flourished in this area. Thus it was a matter of prestige to be ruling Kannauj. The three dynasties kept fighting with each other to gain the prestigious area. As there were three dynasties fighting amongst each other, it got the name of tripartite struggle. Since their armies were near equal in capabilities, there were no definite victors. However, the constant battles kept weakening them over a period of time. They did not realize this, and eventually rulers from other dynasties captured the territories of all three, and these dynasties perished simultaneously. The real power passed into the hands of the Chandels, the Chauhans, the Parmars, and other dynasties, all of whom are considered to be Rajputs. Now, the Rajputs. Who were the Rajputs? The Rajputs were considered as the sons of rulers. They were known to be of two descents, the sun and the moon gods, the Suryavanshi and the Chandravanshi, respectively. In the northern part of India, Rajputs played a very important role between the 9th and 12th century CE. They established many independent states. There was no central controlling authority which could bring them together into a single unit or empire. Some of the prominent Rajput kingdoms were the Chauhans of Ajmer and Delhi, Parmars of Malwa region, Gaharwals or Rathors of Kannauj and Sisodias of Mewar. Now let's see the Chauhans. Who were the Chauhans? The Chauhans, as we know about the ruler Prithviraj Chauhan, so he belonged to the Chauhan dynasty. The Chauhan, earlier known as the Chahmans, were the feudal lords during the rules of the Pratihars. They established their kingdom first in Ajmer and in the 11th century and later acquired control over Delhi from the Tomars and shifted their capital to Delhi. Prithviraj Chauhan was the most famous ruler of this dynasty. We get to know about him from an epic poem, Prithviraj Raso, written by his court poet Chand Bardai. He fought two battles at Tarain, now in Haryana, with Muhammad Ghori. Now we will discuss about the battles of Tarain, the very important battle in history which was fought between the Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori. Let's see. The first battle at Tarain took place in 1191. The first battle at Tarain took place in 1191. Prithviraj united some Rajput kings to face Muhammad Ghori. Unfortunately, Jaichand, the ruler of Kannauj, did not join this confederation in the battle Gori Gori was wounded and defeated, which caused his army to flee. Now, the second battle of Tarain was fought in 1192. Muhammad Gori attacked the kingdom of Prithviraj Chauhan again with the motive of revenge and to establish control over India. This time he had organized a better cavalry and army. Prithviraj again formed a confederation, but this time Jayachand, instead of joining the battle from the side of Rajputs, is said to have helped Ghori. Ultimately, Prithviraj was captured and slain. Although another Turkish ruler, Muhammad of Ghazni from Afghanistan, had also attacked in Gujarat region in search of wealth, the loss in the Battle of Tarain by the Rajputs is considered as the turning point of the destiny of India. Now let's see who was the Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni of Afghanistan ruled from 997 CE to 1030 CE. Mahmud of Ghazni attacked the subcontinent 17 times. In search of wealth, he mainly attacked the temples, towns such as Somnath, Nagarkot, Mathura, Kannauj, and others. He was of the belief that all the wealth and gold of India was hidden in the temples, and he wanted the wealth to support his own kingdom and his army. He repeated successful attacks, so how Indian kings were very weak and indefensible. Sultan Mahmud was a patron of art and culture as well, and even in those days he established a library in his domain. Let's see how was the administration of the kingdoms. The kings were thought to be gifted with divine qualities. They assumed titles like Maharaja Dhiraj, Parmeshwara, etc. These terms meant Lord or God. Kingship was hereditary. They enjoyed unlimited powers and were the commander of the forces. They took upon the role of judges in cases of disputes. They appointed council of ministers to help them in administration, and departments were allocated to them. Officials were appointed to look after the law and order and collect revenue. Village were the smallest unit of administration, and the headman looked after the administration of the village. In cities, there were local committees to look after the affairs of the cities. Now, the revenue system, how they collected the revenue from the peasants. The kings needed money to finance their administrative employees and maintain the army and to work for the welfare of the society. Money was also needed to fight wars and finance the construction of forts, palaces, and temples. Money collected was at times given away as rewards to selected people. Now, revenue collection. The various ways of collecting money were as follows. First point, farmers were required to give a part of their earnings in crop or its value to the king. Other people like the traders, the artisans were also required to give a tax in kind or cash to the king. At times the kings collected peculiar and vague taxes like tax for using of a ladder by the peasant, the use of cart, thatching of houses, and so on. Those who were unable to pay tax money had to pay back by working as labor for the king. In this chapter, you have studied about the various kingdoms of the early medieval period. This period was of growth, development, and prosperity, but also had its share of conflict and divide. You will study about the later medieval period later in the book. Dear students, in the next video we will discuss about the Chol dynasty as a case study.